I wanted to share a little bit of background about this project. You guys probably saw the bigger versions of these murals hanging in this library for the last 8 years. And we just put them down last year, the end of last school year. And the reason we did that is we scanned it and we created smaller prints, and we are slowly gonna gift them to the different schools. But a big part of this project the goal was to be able to get all of you to become the new generation of guardians and storytellers. The way that we become kia'i, our guardians, is that we know our aina in a way that no one else will know it. Yeah, so that's what the mo'olelo can do for us. A lot of these mo'olelo are mo'olelo about guardians from long ago. And we still carry that mauli, that fire in us, and that's what makes Molokaʻi so beautiful. This project was really just a dream that I had 8 years ago of being able to bring together. I think we recruited about 19 youth. They were all about your age at the time. They're all adults now. And we recruited them, and then we brought in 5 master artists, and they're all Kanaka Maoli from Oahu, Maui, different islands. You might recognize some of the names. If you don't, look them up. If you love art, they are phenomenal artists, and they're very world-renowned. Solomon Enos is one of them, Meliana Meyer, Hernani Orm, and we had Kahi Ching, and we also had Al Lagunero. So they flew here. We lived together for 7 days, 7 nights at Keawa Nui Fish Pond. We ate as much as we could from the aina. Uncle would go take everybody holo 4 a.m. in the morning. We ate whatever we caught in the ocean and in the fish pond. And we shared this whole process together. And in the meanwhile, we were learning the different mo'olelo. We jumped on a ka'ahua bus, and we circumnavigated as far as we could on the island. We had Anakeo Pu'ulani, who is one of my mentors, share mo'olelo. And we also started to find and research mo'olelo in different sources. So we have a few sources over here that you guys can check out after. Tales of Molokaʻi, which was written by Auntie Harriet Ney from Ho'olehua. We have the Molokaʻi Site and Survey book. That's a great book. Like, if you guys are fascinated with learning about the stuff that we don't see right away, that are hidden away, where are the old heiau? Where are the caves? What are the stories that are connected to those things? Yeah, that's a great book. They don't even publish it anymore. So if you can get your hands on that, hopefully you have it in the library. Tales of the Night Rainbow is a great book too, written by someone who has a mo'okuauhau, or lineage to Molokaʻi, and Tales of Molokaʻi, like I mentioned. And then this other puke, so when I was teaching for Kamehameha schools a while back, we had a program here in Molokaʻi. If you guys are familiar with Kamehameha School's exploration program, yeah, where you go in 5th grade and you spend the summer a week over there on Oahu. They made a version of that on the outer islands. They stopped it though just recently when COVID happened. And actually my uncle, Anakala Mahina Ho was one of the first kumu, and then I came in after him. And it was such a wonderful experience because we got to become the storytellers. So we had like 40 keiki that came in every week from all over Hawaii, plus Molokaʻi. And I tell you, the Molokaʻi kids stood out amongst the rest. No, did any of you guys get to go Ho'olauna? I think they canceled it at COVID. I think they might have just missed it. It was a program that went on for a while. And so it was a mix of all these keiki from all over the place that were Kanaka Maoli, and we just became immersed. And they were expected to learn like a lot of these mo'olelo. And so at the end of the week, we would do a ho'ike, and the keiki would share the mo'olelo that they learned during the week. A lot of these mo'olelo came down from John Ka'imikawa, Auntie Vanda. They all became holders of these stories. And that was the book that we used to teach them. So the kids would do the ho'ike, and they would share all their stories and their experiences of the week on like Friday before they go fly home. And all the Molokaʻi ohana, the makua, the parents would come up to me, and they would all tell me the same thing. They would go, how come I never learned all these stories growing up? And it would break my heart because I am from Ewa and Lahaina. I'm not from Molokaʻi. I moved here 18 years ago when I fell in love with Uncle, and he proposed to me, and I said, okay, I'm going to start a new life on Molokaʻi. And I became a kumu here, and that was part of that kuleana. I became a holder of these stories, and it would break my heart that I knew these stories, and Makua and the keiki did not know the stories. And so something in me said, how can I bring these stories to light? And so we did this program, and we trained all these 19 kids to learn all the stories. It went on tour on Oahu in galleries, and they became storytellers, and they shared it with different people. And we housed it here for 8 years. But I became busy. Life became busy. And so I put it on hold, and only recently I said, you know what? I got to revisit this project. We got to start sharing the stories again. And we're actually creating a whole textbook and workbook around these stories. So you guys will see it in a year or two, but I'm happy I get to share it with you. We're going to start off in the north. In the north, we have, look at this beautiful picture here. So if you go over to Kalaupapa Lookout area and you look behind, you can see all the valleys, yeah, as you look this way. And that's the area that we're talking about here. We're talking about Makanalua, we're talking about Kalaupapa, Pelekunu, Waikolu, all that area. This is Ha'ehaʻeku. Ha'ehaʻeku was a giant of a man. And we're not just talking a tall man, he was a giant. And he was a fierce protector of Molokaʻi. And he lived in Waikolu Valley. And there was a time in Molokaʻi's history, actually several times in Molokaʻi history, that we faced famine, drought, no food, people starving. And so the people of Molokaʻi began to pray. And on the winds, their prayers were sent, made it over to the backside of Molokaʻi, and Ha'ehaʻeku heard their call, their kahea. And so with him, he brought the Lanikeha Uala, which is a special Lanikeha center that's named after the type of sweet potato that he brought with him. So as you see around his neck, he has a lei. Because when we shared the stories with the keiki, they had to envision what they saw in their head. What did that look like? So he brought with him the uala, and they thought, well, maybe he bought the vines, because that's how you plant uala. You cut the vine and you put them in the ground. So they put a lei of the uala vines around his neck. And you'll see that as you can look closer here. Above him, you'll see him carrying this giant pohaku, a giant rock. And that's because when you fly backside, if you ever go to Maui, you'll see this big, the moku in the ocean, yeah, the big moku right off of Waikolu. And that's an islet, the big rock island off of Waikolu. And it's said that over history, Molokaʻi was always being threatened of invasion because we was aina momona. And that was mana to a chief, to be able to feed thousands and thousands of people. So they was always like, we're going to invade Molokaʻi. They learned the hard way. So Ha'ehaʻeku, in this instance, when the fleets came in to try and invade, he broke off the top of the mountainside and he threw it into the ocean. And he destroyed all of the invaders. And that's why we have the moku in the ocean now. Above him, in the rock, you'll see a dog. His name is Bokiku Mano Mano, another guardian. So if you go to Kalaupapa Lookout, sometimes you'll see Kalaupapa, and then 2 minutes later it completely disappears because it's covered by mist. Or sometimes you go there and you don't see it at all because it's already covered by mist. Well, that mist is known as Bokiku Mano Mano. Oftentimes in our Moʻolelo, our clouds are different forms of Ku, the god Ku himself, who is a fierce protector. That's how you'll hear Bokiku Mano Mano in his name. And so it was a dog cloud that would completely cover that peninsula when it was under attack or being threatened. And we'll still see it to today. Below, you'll see these little people. So if you have time later, you can kind of look closer. You'll see people kind of gliding. Those are people gliding. So they would use these lolu leaves. Yeah, there's an islet out there that grows this very special type of palm, the lolu palm. And they would weave them together, and they would make parachutes, guys. This is real. There's like stories about this, and they would have contests where they would glide on the air, on the wind, jump off of these islets with these parachutes, and they could float all the way to Kalaupapa if it was good enough. So there's Moʻolelo about this, and you'll see that. The very top, we have, of course, the church, one of the churches in Kalaupapa to tell that story. So we have some modern history in our murals as well. Below, you'll see over here, this is a puhi that lived in Anapuhi. Anapuhi doesn't exist anymore. How many of you guys ever heard of Anapuhi? So Anapuhi, Ana means cave, Puhi means io. And it's on the back side, between Pelekunu and Waikolu, right?
If I know, some of you in here that have been North Shore plenty, had one cave that went, had one landslide and went collapse. And so I not exactly remember sure where the thing was. I think was between Haka'ano and Wailau before.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, I'm not sure. But there used to be a cave that no exists anymore. But if you guys go North Shore, landslide is real, yeah? And get even new aina, yeah, available there that nobody owned because that's brand new because of the landslide.
Yes, absolutely. And So this kind of covers two stories. This is reflective of Anapuhi, which is this cave that this puhi lived in. But there also was a cave between Waikolu and Pelekunu, where this giant eel that actually came and terrorized the first fish pond in Hana, made its way all over there. The puhi lived there as well. And in that cave, there was also a giant leho, or the really beautiful cowrie shells that we listen to the ocean in. So they're both guardians that lived in that cave as well. So that's the story of this side. Oh, and there's one more Mo'olelo down here. It's kind of hidden away. And so it kind of looks like a tall mountain, and it's reflective of Haupu, which is a fort. And Uncle can share a little bit about that story.
So I would encourage you guys later to come up here and go look better at the mural. No need touch, but look better, because get stories inside stories. And this story right over his thigh is one of my favorites, because it tells of a time where the new chiefs from Tahiti was coming up. And Molokaʻi never liked the way they was doing human sacrifices. So there was this prince, soon to be king of Molokaʻi. His name was Ka'upe'epe'e. He told his dad, I don't like be chief. I'm going to be pirate. I'm going to raid these guys. I'm going to hit them with hurt. I'm going to steal all of their fera stuff, and I'm going to steal all their wahine. And he would go right at the beginning of sunbreak or at the end, sundown, when they're bathing in the ocean, when they're real vulnerable, and he raid. And he would raid them for hit these guys where it hurts, and for try and stop the expansion of these new ways. So we talk about them in our album Ho'okupu. Foreign invasion. No, mai kahiki mai. But if you guys go deeper, our island has been rebelling out, pirating out, trying to fight for ancient stuff and our way since the very beginning. So you guys rebelling out in school, the thing makes sense. Thing makes sense. But if we can do them for good, and that's what his intention was, Ka'upe'epe. But if you guys remember the name, come look the story. That's one of my favorite ones, part of our North Shore.
Really, really, really exciting story. We're going to move to, so we were at North, yeah? Yep. Ka'eleku. Now we're going to Ka'elelani, which is, we're going to the northeast area. So if you go to the northeast area of Molokaʻi, you'll start finding halava and so forth. So we're going to start in halava. You see on the very top over here, the top left corner. So there's several different stories of mo'o. Yeah, so if you're not familiar with mo'o are guardians of bodies of wai, or water. And they come in many different sizes, forms. Oftentimes, they're referred to as being protectors of water, and in smaller bodies of water, some of these mo'o could transform into wahine. Yeah, so they would be a beautiful wahine that lure you in and so forth. But there's mo'o that were also kane, or males. I'm not exactly sure if this one was kane, wahine, mahu, I don't know, because you'll find kia'i that come in all those different forms, yeah? So gender is not really something that is really black and white in our mo'olelo, and I think that's really important to share with you guys, that in the Hawaiian culture, it's not a big deal to be a mahu at all. It actually gives you more mana in a Hawaiian perspective, because it gives you insight to two sides. I just wanted to touch on that. So this is mo'oula, and that's the mo'o, or the protector of halava. How many of you guys been up to the waterfalls in halava? If you haven't, go check it out. Yeah, it's not so common nowadays, yeah? But hopefully you guys will be able to check out the different wailele. Mo'oula is actually farther back than the one that we always go visit. So you got to go a little bit farther back to go to Mo'oula. So that's what our keiki envisioned these mo'o looking like. And you'll see different versions of mo'o, because that's what they saw in their head. Like, we don't really know, unless you've seen one in real life, what they look like. Okay, so right below that, we have some trees, and those are kukui nut trees. And those are symbolic of the story of Lani Kaula. So right below the kukui nut trees, you'll see this older man's face, and then it kind of transforms into a younger man's face. Actually, like he's going through the phases of his life, really. And that is Lani Kaula himself. So Lani Kaula was born with the name Kuea, and he was born in Kamalo. And he was raised to be a kahuna, so you're born into this kuleana. Yeah, if you're born into a farming family, you became a mahi'ai. If you were born into a kahuna, you became kahuna. So he was trained at a very young age in these different types of arts of being a kahuna. And he had a vision at like 14, 15 years old. He had like a vision of what was going to happen in the future. And what he saw was his uncle, Kamalalawalu, or Kama for short, the king of Maui, being killed. And so he went to his uncle and he was like, I gotta share with my Uncle Kama what I saw in this vision. And he goes to his uncle and he said, hey, uncle, I had a vision that if you're gonna go invade Kona in the daytime, you're not gonna make it back alive. And his uncle Kamalalawalu looked at him and said, boy, you're just causing trouble. And if I come back alive, I'm gonna take your life. To his own nephew, he thought he was causing that much trouble. Well, guess what? Kamalalawalu never made it back from Kona. He was sacrificed on a heiau in Kona by the other chiefs there. And so Lani Kaula was lifted immediately to a higher status because he was real. They're like, whoa, we got to listen to this keiki. And so they changed his name because in the Hawaiian culture, you go through phases of your life and significant things might have happened in your life. And your name would change according to those events in your life. So his name changed from Kuea to Lani Kaula. Lani means the heavens. Kaula means a seer, someone who can see into the future. When you put Lani at the beginning of a name, it takes on a whole different meaning. How many of you guys have Lani in your Hawaiian name? My name is Maile Lani. Yeah, a lot of us have Kalani or Pualani or whatever it might be. So when you put Lani at the end of a name, it's a term of endearment. It's because the person who gave you the name sees you as a blessing from heaven, which is such a beautiful thing. But when Lani is at the beginning of the name, like Lani Kaula, it's a sign of status. It means that he's right up there with the Akua, with the gods. So he became Lani Kaula after that. He lived a long life, some say up to 120, 130 years, which we don't even hear of today. And he had many wives, many kids. And he came towards the end of his life, and again, he had this vision that he wasn't going to live much longer, and his life was going to be threatened in some way. And so he went to his 3 younger sons at the time, and he said, I am not going to be here much longer. Something is going to happen, and I will leave this realm. But when I leave, I need to make sure you're going to take care of my bones, my iwi. Because in the Hawaiian culture, mana is held in your iwi. The most powerful of your mana is held in your bones. And that's why when they like dig up ground and build one hotel and they find all our kupuna bones, you better be sure we're going to be the first one saying, no way. So his iwi were very special to him. And he said to the first son, where will you put my bones after I die to make sure that nobody can touch them and make sorcery and try to take my mana away from me? And the first son, well, I'm going to go to the deepest ocean caves and I'm going to hide it there. And he said, I don't think that's good enough. So he went to the second son. He said, when I die, what are you going to do with my iwi? And the son said, Dad, no worry. I'm going to put them in the deepest, highest mountain caves. Nobody will find it there. And he said, I don't know. I think it might be found. The third son said, I will plant your iwi in the earth, and around your iwi, I will plant a forest of kukuina trees. And he said, that's the one. And so till today, when you go to Pu'ohoku Ranch and you drive down that main road past the store, it'll take you to Ka'ulu Lani Kaula, which means the kukuina grove of Lani Kaula. And at one time, they say it was over 50 acres large. That's huge. And now, maybe 2, 3, 4 acres at the most. And that's only because of reforestation efforts. So the ranchers came in and they cleared out everything. So where we see the existing forest today might not even be where his iwi are anymore. Yeah, so we don't know, and we want it that way. We don't want his iwi to ever be found. He was a kahuna umomo, which means that he was a kahuna of all things. He was an expert at medicine. He was an expert at sorcery. He was an expert at gazing at the stars and understanding celestial bodies. He was an expert of all of those kahuna practices. Now, if you go to the very bottom, it's one of my favorite stories. It's Moku Ho'oniki. Moku Ho'oniki, how many of you guys got to Kumimi or Morris Point area? Yeah, and then you see the island out there that we call Turtle Island. Okay, so after today, I want you guys to call it by its real name, because if we stop calling it by its real name, we forget the whole story. And that's exactly what happened. Everybody calls it Turtle Island and nobody knows why. So everybody say Moku Ho'oniki.
Moku ho'oniki.
One more time, Moku Ho'oniki. One more time, Moku Ho'oniki. Yes, so Moku means an island. Ho'oniki, to be pinched off. So that's when we lost the meaning of the word, right? If we don't know that it's an island that means to be pinched off, then we don't even know what that refers to. So long ago, Manaʻe people were real awesome lawai, awesome fishermen, but they started to disappear and not come back at the end of the day. And so the people got really worried, and they're like, where are lawai going? So they sought advice from a kahuna, and they said, I think I've heard stories that there's this giant turtle in the water that's just plucking off people. How would we ever take on this turtle? We can't, the bodies never come back. We don't know where to find this honu. What do we do? And the kahuna said, well, you guys need to come together as a community. That's the key, right? Come together as a community when you guys are taking on these big enemies. That's the only way we can take them on. And we're going to create this giant kaula, or a rope type of device that we're going to construct. And then you guys will go into the water, become human bait for this thing, and you better be ready. You better be makaukau, because you're going to lure that honu into the kaula, the rope, and pull on either side, and it will end the life of this honu. And the people are like, okay, all right, the kahuna not going to steer us wrong. So they come together, they build this giant device, and they go in the water, and sure enough, it works like a charm. And when the turtle's head went right through that circle part, hooky, 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 until his head was completely pinched off. Moku ho'oniki. Right? So that's huge. I want you guys to say it again. Moku ho'oniki.
Moku ho'oniki.
A lot of times we'll say moku niki, which is a shortened version, which is totally fine too.
I pointed out Ka'upepe on top of the first banner. Very small picture. Auntie talked about Moku Ho'oniki. That is my favorite story on that panel. I find extreme pride in thinking that we were able to overcome monsters. Okay? So each panel, again, go look at them a little bit better when you have chance, but they're hiding more stories than you think.
Okay, you'll see this picture of this wahina's face over here, and rain coming down from her. This is the Kukulu Nui Hina rain. So if you go, now we're in the east part of Molokaʻi, and this rain is known to start right around Kapu'upo'i, which is right below Lani Kaula, like right after Halawa, and it travels along the eastern coast, the southeastern coast, and it goes all the way to Kainalu. You guys know where Kainalu is? East End, Manaʻe. So it covers a lot of Manaʻe, this rain. And Kukulu Nui Hina, Kukulu is like a column, Nui, great, of Hina. So the great rain column of Hina. And with this rain, she would bring the kala. How many of you guys like to eat kala? Right? So if you look on the bottom, inside the water, you'll see kala fish. So the kala fish they still follow this rain. I've only seen it once. If you're lucky, you get to see it. It follows this rain. But it's also said that if a woman was not able to bear a child, if they were infertile, not able to become pregnant, they could stand under this rain and become able to bear a child, which is a really beautiful thing. You'll see ka'ohele on the very top. And ka'ohele, how many of you guys heard of ka'ohele? Oh, you're going to hear about ka'ohele today. So not that ka'ohele. We're talking about ka'ohele from the legendary Makahiki superhero. Okay, so if you never learned about ka'ohele, Uncle's going to teach you guys real quick about ka'ohele.
Ka'ohele, born a boy from the Manaʻe side. The stories we actually learned was he would race against all of his friends, and he was slow. His father was giving up on him. His mother ain't gonna teach him how to run fast, fool, on the beaches of Kainalu. And I went trip out because we didn't really think of, oh, mommy gonna show you how to run fast, but he was an example. Mommy would take him to the beach, started running him on the beach over and over again until the big race. He beat everybody. He never stopped there. He became so fast that he became a legend. Legend not only in war on the battlefield, but he was very mischievous. And so when he had battle with the chiefs from Anahaki, it was said that he would go over there and steal all of their spears. Got them so pissed off, they would chase them around the island, end up trapping them by Ahaino. But on that legendary chase around the island, by Halava, get one Kauhele's jump. When you guys come in past the Puhoku Ranch and you start going down to Halava, you get this big gap, this gulch that we're looking at as you're going down. He and Jampo. He and Jampo.
And that's what you see in that picture there, is Kauhele's leap. Leaping from one side of the gulch to the other side of the gulch. How superhero-like, yeah? So if you look on the very bottom, you'll see a shark man. And this shark man, like I said, it's what the keiki saw in their head. Like, what would this shark man look like? Well, he was able to turn into a mano as well as completely turn into a kanaka, a human. And this was Kahuhu. Kahuhu is a very famous shark god of Molokaʻi, if you haven't heard of him. There's a few really fantastic stories that I'll share another one after this. But he was known to live on the backside of Molokaʻi, but he was very determined to take over other areas, become the guardian of other areas, and sometimes by brute force.
He's a bully.
He's a bully. But he has great stories, and he's also helped people in the stories of Kamalo and his sons. So he helped people if you got on his good side. So we'll move on to this side over here, one of my favorite panels. Now we're on southeast Molokaʻi. So we're talking about like maybe around Kupeke area. You guys know where Kupeke is, where the He'e house is? The Loko'i are right after Mana'e Goods and Grinds on that corner where there's a blue roof house. Okay, so you'll see, so right after Puko'o, you'll reach Kupeke. Okay, and Kupeke is where this He'e is known to live, the giant He'e. How many guys learned of the giant He'e? Oh, wow, I guess these stories are more common when you guys were younger. Yeah, you don't hear it so much anymore. That's why it's so important you guys hear it today. So that fish pond had a He'e that was a guardian of the pond, and we might even still be there today. But for a while, these kids were disappearing. Not all of these kia'i were nice and friendly to humans. Yeah, so the kids would pass through Kupeke to go to Puko'o, where there was a school. And kids started just getting plucked off and disappearing. And so a father of one of the girls that disappeared went to a kahuna. A lot of these stories talk about kahuna and people seeking advice of kahuna. And he said, I think that there's something in there, in that pond, that's taking our children. But I'm going to need help because I'm going to have to be on watch day and night. I'm going to have to be able to sit there without being hungry, thirsty, having to use the bathroom. I have to just be able to on guard 24/7. So the kahuna cast a spell to enable him to do this. And so he sat there day and night, haunted by the disappearance of his daughter and determined to find out the answer. And eventually he saw the He'e slowly come out and snatch a child and take it into the pond. And that was resolved. And they figured out the whole mystery behind it. But did they devour or destroy the He'e? A'ole. In fact, till today, they still talk about the He'e. Yeah, and even when Hano's mom was an adult, she has a story herself, first-hand account. And the story is Tales of Molokaʻi, first-hand account of seeing and witnessing this He'e, this giant He'e. Right? And they say that you weren't supposed to bring pork or pua'a in the car as you passed through because the He'e was ono for pua'a. And if you did, your car would stall. And the He'e would appear. And what happened if you saw the He'e? You better throw that pork out the window for the He'e as a whole kupurin offering. Now, the father, but going back to that father, he stood there for so long that eventually his body became petrified and he turned into rock. And so they still say that above the pond, there's a rock there that is the father of this young girl that disappeared.
What I heard growing up is that blue tile house, the on corner you got to go around. Get the rock painted white. Mm-hmm. My grandpa said at one time they would try to blow them up, so never have to go around the corner. But the rock never blow up. Mm-hmm. And so it was always connected. That rock belonged right there because the blue tile house still over there. We've also heard stories that they always keep selling the house.
And it's haunted.
Because they see aberrations. In the book, Tales of Molokaʻi,
Apparitions.
ghosts.
Apparitions, like ghostly type of images, yeah.
In the book, the thing tell of one so massive, like look like on telephone posts, and the thing just hanging
that book.
free hanging right there in the front them. And then you get other stories that I've heard that they've seen, like imagine 1 million bebe octopus.
On the road.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he'e are able to come out of water. If you've never seen that before, they can actually move outside of the water for a little bit and then go back into water. So there's stories about seeing the he'e cross the street, all that kind of stuff.
You go, oh, Akano, have you ever seen it? I never see them, but I believe my kupuna watch out for me too, so they protect me from that kind of stuff, just like how the thing might protect you. But if you're not protected, if you know belong someplace, these kind of stuff is more than just story.
Now, another really great story that you'll see right over here in this top corner is the story of Pakui's heiau. So if you ever go to Kilohana School, and you stand right where the school bus stay, right in the middle of that one school bus that's always parked there. If you stand in front of it and you look mauka, you will see a heiau in the mountain. And it's like very clear, very, very clear. It's right there, it's not even that far away. That's Pakui heiau. And Pakui heiau is the home of a prophecy that happened, Pakui's prophecy. And it spoke of a time where the heavens would fall, the highest chiefs would fall. And the people, which were called lepo popolo. So lepo is dirt, popolo is like that dark color, like a popolo berry, right? And that's why we call black people popolo. It's not an insult, guys. It's actually more, I think it's a more appropriate term because it compares them to the color in nature. The color of that dark mud in the lo'ikalo. Yeah, the color of the dark berry. So the lepo popolo was symbolic of people who worked the land. If your legs and your hands were stained with lepo popolo, you were a person who worked the land. You're a makaʻi nana. Right? So it talks about a time where all the chiefs would fall, and the makaʻi nana, the people who worked the land, the lepo popolo, would crest over like a wave and take over everything. Take over everything. Thank you. And yeah, so that's the lepo popolo. We also see a mo'o right here, kapualei. How many of you guys have seen the mo'o kapualei in the mountain above Kamalo? Oh, we gotta take a bus, holo action, so we can actually go to those places and teach you guys, and you guys gonna be, oh, that's a story.
Wait, what?
Yeah, kapualei. So this is kapualei. Kapualei is a giant mo'o, just like I explained, a protector, yeah? Not just a water protector, but kapualei protected that whole area, the whole area of East Molokaʻi. And so Kauhuhu, this guy over here, came from backside, his cave on the backside Pelekunu, and was like, I want to take over Kamalo. And so he made his way over here, and he fought with Kapualei till the end. And where did they fight? If you guys are familiar with Kavanui Fish Pond, there's a peninsula right on the outside of that, yeah? They fought right off of the peninsula over there to the death. And Kauhuhu was like, oh, Kapualei's done. And so he was like, I'm the new protector of this area. But little did he know that Kapualei had a little bit of life left in him and made it up to the mountainside and was sure to climb up the mountain, huli the body, to make sure that he could always look down on his aina and show Kauhuhu he never win. And that is where Kapualei ended his life, right there on the mountaintop. I would love to take you guys so you can actually see the mo'o. Okay, so those are the stories here. This is my favorite story from the whole thing. So the peninsula of Kavanui is actually thought to be an eel or a puhi. Yeah, and it's called Puhi Ula, the red eel, the protector of Kavanui area, or Ka'amola, yeah? And so we have Puhi Ula over here, but you'll also see this man over here, and it looks like he's sending a prayer or a spell. So this is one of the stories of Molokaʻi Puleo'o. Everybody say, Molokaʻi Puleo'o. Molokaʻi Puleo'o means Molokaʻi of the most sacred and powerful prayer. Because that is how we guarded our island. Yeah, we had fierce warriors. We had the best kahuna. But the kahuna was the one that they never even have to use a spear to protect our island. All they had to use was their mana. We had the most powerful of all kahuna in all of Hawaii. And just like I explained, Lani Kaula, kahuna umo mo were the ones who knew all the tricks and trades of being a kahuna. And right down across the airport, Mahana area, was this place where the kahuna would learn and gather. Right here. And so they heard Maui was planning to invade again, because, Aina Momona, that was Mana. The chiefs were like, we're going to take over Molokaʻi, and we're going to be the most powerful chiefs in all of Hawaii. And so Kaikololani, the chief of Maui at the time, planned to take over. And the word got out, and they sent messenger, just like Ka'ohele on foot. Ka'ohele was a famous messenger, too. He could run a mile like that just to carry a message from one end of the island to the other. So they sent the elele, the messenger, all the way to the school of Kahuna right down here in Mahana. And he said, Kaikololani's coming, and he's bringing his whole army. And they're going to take over this island unless we stop them. And the kahuna never left that area, but they left that day. And they made their way on foot all the way from Mahana to Keawanui Fish Pond area. And they began to pray. And so this is one of the kahuna sending his prayer up. And you see the shadows of all the other kahuna behind him, yeah? Sending their pule o'o. They didn't pray to bring death to anybody. They prayed just for protection at whatever means and cost that meant. And so as Kaikololani's army made it across the Pailolo Channel, across from Maui to here, there was a saying, laua lau koa koa. Thousands upon thousands of canoes and koa warriors and koa canoes just blanketing the ocean where there was no more blue. It was brown, completely covered. And so as the warriors made their way onto the peninsula and they started to come out of their va'a, one by one they fell to their death just from the prayer. Not one spear, not one ma'a stone from a sling touched them. Just the prayer of the puleo'o and protection killed all of those warriors as they touched Molokaʻi's shores. But through the prayer, they also spared the life of one person. And who do you think that was? The chief. So that he could go back and tell everybody in Hawaii, Molokaʻi puleo'o. Don't even think about it. And that's why, till today, Molokaʻi can say that they have never been invaded. Yeah, so we're going to make our way over there. And you'll see the dead bodies of these warriors rotting on the floor, on the ground with flies around them. So we wanted to make it very graphic. That's what the kiki saw in their head. And there's Aika'au, and he's a giant as well. And Aika'au, Ai means to eat, Ka'au means 40. It's a count of 40, because in the Hawaiian culture, we use counts of 4 to count. Anaha, they call it, a measurement of 4. So he could eat up to 40 fish in one sitting, they say. And he was a great fisherman, great lawai'a, but he was very generous, so he would never just eat all the fish himself. So in this picture here, he's sharing his catch with a regular-sized kanaka. Yeah, and these fish are like probably huge, like ahi-sized fish, right? But they're so easy for him to carry because he was so big. And the story of Aika'au really is reflective of Molokaʻi people. Because even till today, right, like if your neighbor has extra deer meat or extra mango or extra avocado, we share, right? That's what we do over here. And that's why we're never going to go hungry on this island. We know how to gather. We know how to take care of ourselves. And we always make sure that our neighbor is not without. And that's a beautiful thing. And it's important for you guys to continue that. Now, besides Aika'au, right above him, you'll see this ipu. So this ipu actually represents 2 different ipu that happen. One of them happens in this area, the southwest corner of Molokaʻi. And it's the story of Paka'a and Kuapaka'a, and their father and son, very famous from the island of Hawaii. And with them, they go on these great adventures. And I know, Tammy, you're actually teaching the ipu o La'omamau, and your papa, I love that. So if you ever have a chance to get your hands on that book, Ipu o La'omamau, it's a great puke, and it talks about these adventures of Paka'a and Kuapaka'a and their kuleana to take care of this ipu, this wind gourd. And in this ipu, it held all the winds of Hawaii. Now, if you don't know, super cool fact, Hawaii has names for every single wind current that flows through Hawaii. We called them by name. We prayed to them, we sang to them. When we needed them to calm down, we asked them to do that. We needed them to pick up, we asked them to do that. But Paka'a and Kuapaka'a's mother's bones were in this ipu. And she was the holder of all this knowledge as well. So they were tasked with being able to understand how to call upon these makani and to take care of the ipu itself. They found refuge on Molokaʻi for a while, and there they planted fields and fields of uala, and they had a wonderful life here. And there's great stories about how the winds helped them and protect them throughout this journey. So that's one story of the ipu. There's also another very famous ipu that is from Molokaʻi, and that's Hina's ipu, Awawa Honua Aho, Hina's wind gourd. And so it's said that whenever Molokaʻi was being threatened, either by outsiders or people from Molokaʻi itself, she would open up the top of the ipu and release these winds. And there are 3 winds, each wind becoming stronger and stronger and more devastating until the last wind would completely wipe out everything and flatten the land. And people even in modern history talk about seeing these winds come into play. If you want to touch on that real quick.
Oh. Auntie is referring back to the first Aloha Aina battle I ever was in was against cruise ships. Fresh, new. I was in charge of the 6 canoes that was going out to go meet the first cruise ship that was coming in. When we went out with the canoes, I remember approaching the cruise ship but staying in the channel by the wharf. We were here, and the cruise ship was outside of the wall. And as we was looking at the cruise ship was going like this, and it was windy. And where we was Maile, was flat. And I remember just tripping out, like, what?
So because of that, the cruise ships could not come in and dock.
They couldn't.
They wanted to bring cruise ships to Molokaʻi, guys. Would you guys allow that? Giant, huge cruise ships docking at our harbor? Moʻolelo. They bring plenty kukai and opala with them.
But that was the first time that I saw what I thought was magic. Because I couldn't explain why out there had wind that was blowing like it was storming, and why we was sitting in just stillness. I couldn't explain them.
Yeah, so Uncle was on a surfboard.
No, that was another time when I was on a surfboard. Stopping on another cruise ship.
Another cruise ship, yes. So,
Scared.
At whatever cost, till today we have kia'i. We have kia'i in different ways that they guard our aina, right? And we can learn so much from these old stories as to how to protect our beautiful island. We also have another wind that's kind of embodied in this movement of wind up there, and it's Ha'a. So Ha'a is a wind goddess. You know, you guys ever see like those dirt tornadoes that always come right between like Kaunakakai and here, right? And Mahana. And Kalama, that's where I said Kaunakakai to Mahana. So that's where Ha'a would come, and Ha'a was this goddess that would bring with her the lepo, the dirt and the wind. And it was said that when the women would plant uala, they would take the vines, the cutting of the uala, and they would call upon Ha'a, and Ha'a would cover the cuttings of the uala with her dirt, and they would grow uala from there. It's a really beautiful story. If we go to this panel, so Ka'ana, Kahula Pico, on the top of Mauna Loa Mountain, is the Pico of Hula. Now, Kauai likes to claim that they are too, but a lot of our stories are very similar, and there's no right or wrong. What I found in Mo'olelo is that there's different versions depending on where you're from, and I think it's important that we share those stories, compare, contrast, and learn new things from each other. So although they want to claim that they're the Pico of Hula, we honor that, but we say, over here, we the Pico of Hula. So Kapo'ula Kina'u was a goddess, and she had several different siblings, and it said that one night she started to observe the movement of an iole, or a rat. Yeah, and she was very mesmerized by it. And so she started to create movements of her body that kind of mimicked the movement of the rat. And through that, hula was born. She taught it to her younger sister, Laka. Until today, we honor Kapo and Laka as these goddesses are a kua wahine of hula.
What was interesting for me is when I went to go pursue and learn lua, the Hawaiian art of bone breaking, I learned from these Maui chiefs, Olohe Nakane Lua and Olohe Keamoku Kapu. And when learning the lua, you have to go back into the mo'okuauhau of where you're from. And so when you talk about Molokaʻi, the birthplace of hula, lua was Laka's brother, who observed her doing hula from this flat hill, Olohe, from a flat hill right below Ka'ana, watching his sister and turning the hula into martial arts.
So till today, if you go up to Ka'ana, you'll see these rock formations that are different forms of Kapo, Laka, Olohe, all these siblings, yeah, that live there. There's even a kind of a platform below the Pa hula. They built a platform there in the 90s with the halau, kukuna kala. And if you stand up on a Pa, and then there's this platform that is believed to be Olohe, the god of Lua himself, in this kind of island, not island, but aina form, yeah? This little pu'u. You can actually chant from the Olohe hill to the Pa, and it's so far away, but this wind current sounds like they're right there, which is amazing, you know, and our kupuna knew those things. They knew how they were connected. Over here, you'll see a giant crab. That's Amikopola. Amikopola was a huge crab that just menaced the whole West End, and the people got sick of it. And so the story says that they got together and they planned a rebellion to take on Amikopola. So when the kids were like, what would this have looked like? I love this painting because the kids were like, well, how do you take on a giant crab? What do you think you would have to do first? Flip him over, right? So they're like, oh, maybe they flipped him over first, right? So they have the picture of him being flipped over, and then you'll see these men over here with rocks, and they're like they're ready to bash it into his body. So the story says that they took him on, they crushed his body into millions of pieces, and his body, the pieces of his body are scattered all over the West End. And so what is the ahupa, or the name of the moko in the West End? Kalua Ko'i. I love how you say ko'i, not kalua ko'i, right? So it's kalua ko'i. There's an okina in there. Kalua meaning the pit, like how we cook the kalua pig in a pit, right? Kalua. And then ko'i is the ko'i stone, the ad stone, the basalt stone that we use to make our ko'i, to chop things, to cut things. His body turned into all the ko'i stones on the West End, and that's why we call it kalua ko'i, from his body. And the ko'i was very valuable. It was like gold back in the day. Yeah, so West End was very rich in resources in that way.
Science can help validate these stories. The story of Ha'eku throwing that rock off of the top of the mountain and into the water. When you guys fly and see that big pohaku next to Kalaupapa, science went go take measurements, take samplings,
yeah.
and know it, and found out that rock used to belong up there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Amikopola is another one where science can validate the rock in Kaluakoi is different from all the rocks, the different blue stone throughout Hawaii. I'm like, God, how come the thing different? Because that's not blue stone.
Yep.
That was a giant crab that Al Kupuna went smash. That's another story I want to put tattoo on my back. We're like, oh, where you from?
It's a good
Molokaʻi,
story.
bro. Check this out.
It's such a good story.
One get moku ho'oniki, them yanking off his neck,
Yep.
and the other one get the crab getting smashed right on the back, right there.
I mean, it's just like stories of heroes after heroes after heroes. It's so good, you guys. This is what you come from.
We brave.
This is what you come from.
We courageous.
If we go back to the first panel over here, I'm going to touch on it real quick, but there's one really big part of the story. So there's a kind of silhouette of Hina on the top there, and it almost looks like Olokui, which you'll find on the backside of Molokaʻi, like this top, kind of flat mountain top on the Ko'olau Mountains. So it's kind of like a view if you're like looking from southwest all the way to the Ko'olau side, and you'll see Hina above. But throughout this picture, if you guys have time, look close because there's hidden fish. There's hidden fish all throughout the picture. It's like the coolest thing. It's like find Waldo, right? Like, where is it? So there's tons of fish hidden in this. And the reason we did that, because on the south shore, so that's the south panel, if you guys are from town area like that, oh man, talk about fertile water. Talk about fertile ocean, right? So there's a saying that talks about how fertile the Molokaʻi waters are, and it's called Nakai Po'olo'olo'u. Say it with me, Nakai Po'olo'olo'u. Po'olo'olo'u. Yeah, it's only a term you'll hear on Molokaʻi. It's not even in the dictionary. And it talks about this bubbling of water when the mullets start to spawn. How many of you guys like to eat anai or mullet? Ooh, Woo, just gotta make sure you catch them at the right time, yeah? Not off season. That's the one. Honor the kapu so we can have millions of mullet into the years ahead, yeah? So in the South Shore, there was this phenomenon that you could see, this bubbling of water when they're spawning. Yeah, they're making more mullet babies. But the thing about mullet is they migrate. They need to move throughout their life phases because they eat different things at different life phases. And so when we built the wharf, what do you think that happened to the movement of the mullet? Yeah, because there used to be openings. I saw old pictures and we actually talked about it. There was openings and then they got all full of silt and stuff and sand and then they just cemented it. So then you completely cut off the pathway of a lot of things that need to move. Yeah, so when we learn these mo'olelo, they can help us to make better decisions going into the future. Yeah, like why did we put a rubbish dump right above the place where all the mullets spawn? Maybe because we forgot the stories that tell us that we shouldn't do that, yeah? So if we go over here to the last panel, Mo'omomi area, northwest area, beautiful site of Molokaʻi. And so we have, of course, the sun setting. We have Kionelele. Kionelele, I think a lot of people say it incorrectly nowadays, Kinelele or something. Yeah. What is the incorrect? Most people refer it to another. You guys know what it's called? Some people say it wrong. How? Kinalele, right? But it's Keone-lele, okay? The flying sands, Keone-lele. So in that alone, that story tells you, right? So those sands, they tend to move with the wind. Keone-lele is also famous for having a lot of bones or iwi within the dunes over there. And it's also known for all the mining of the sands to make Waikiki Beach, guys. Guess what? Waikiki Beach is made out of Molokaʻi sand. So if we know that Keone-lele has all of our iwi kupuna, the west side is full of our iwi kupuna, do you think that they would have made the decision for just take all the sand? Ole. That's what happens when we stop telling the stories. Yeah? And a lot of people started dying along the way when they was mining those sands, right? Because the kupuna will work their magic if they have to. So we have Keone-lele, we have the sun setting on that side of the island, and then we have a ipu kai. It's an ipu or calabash that holds a lot of kai or food from the ocean because that whole side is so abundant. So momona, the ocean over there, right? Opihi, everything you need you can find on that side of the island. So that's a nickname, the ipu kai, that side. We have Mo'omomi. How many of you guys been to Mo'omomi? Love Mo'omomi. Okay, so there's that little kind of like rock formation that comes out right off the beach, yeah, on low tide. So it said that Mo'omomi would actually lay across that rock, yeah, and her scales would sparkle like momi or pearls in the sunlight. And so that's what you'll see, the little sparkling all over her body, and that's Mo'omomi. Now we call that area Mo'omomi, but it's actually called Kawa'aloa. Yeah, but we nicknamed it Mo'omomi after the mo'o. We also have Na'aukahihi, so the waters over there are very dangerous. If you're not familiar with the currents of Mo'omomi area, don't go in the water. Don't go in the water. People have died. It's called Na'aukahihi, those currents, because it means the twisted gut. So when we start to understand names of things, then we can make better decisions, right? So are you going to go into the ocean that you're not familiar with called the twisted gut? Aole. Na'aukahihi. You better know what you're doing before you go in there. Many opihi pickers have been taken away. Okay? And then we also have the caterpillar man of Pu'upe'elua. Pu'upe'elua Road, right there. So there was a cave there on that little pu'u or hill where the Baptist church is and Uncle Walter Riddy's house is. And it was believed that a caterpillar man lived in there, and he fell in love with a everyday Kanaka, beautiful girl. And but as they fell in love and got deeper in love, this girl started to get sicker and sicker and lose all the color in her face and got very, like almost near death. And so they followed him, they connected a string to his body, followed him back to his cave, and they blew it up with dynamite. And so till today, this is the last story, till today, sometimes one time a year, if you go up Pu'upe'elua Road, you'll see it covered completely with baby caterpillars, the whole road. Pretty cool, yeah, how science ties right into our mo'olelo. So I hope you guys enjoy this, and I hope you guys can take at least a few stories back home to your makua. And when you look at these murals, be reminded of your mo'olelo and where you guys come from. Aloha aina kako, aloha aina.